Numerous studies have shown how to make people more comfortable with spending money, and it's made business owners millions and billions. The issue most people have when it comes to scaling their business is number one, not understanding their audience enough, and number two, thinking they can't change their audience's mindset in the moment. And my promise to you for today is that I will show you exactly how to apply what these studies have discovered about making people more comfortable spending money with you, and break down concrete examples to show you where and when to use these tactics. Now, when it comes to increasing your sales, it generally boils down to making people more likely to buy. And that can be done in numerous ways, as we all know. But one of those ways, and one of the most highly impactful ways, is getting people to be less loss averse. Now, why would that be the case? You see, our brains value and weigh losses far more than potential gain. And what does that mean? It means that if you present someone with a 50-50 gamble to either win $150 or lose $100, most people would deny that gamble. Why is that? Because the loss of $100 seems similar, if not greater, than the win of $150. And in the world of psychology, this is called the loss aversion ratio. The loss aversion ratio looks something like this. The loss aversion ratio is about 2 times the potential loss in the average everyday person. Which means that if we remember that gamble from before, the $100 that they lose feels like $200. Even though it's not. Logically speaking, that gamble should be taken every single time, because the more you do it, the more you will earn on average, right? But because we emotionally process losses as greater than gains, we deny the gamble, thinking we are losing rather than winning. As you can probably tell, the loss aversion ratio directly influences how people perceive your pricing and the investment needed to get your products and services. If you put 2 and 2 together, you can already tell that the lower the loss aversion ratio, the higher is the perceived value of your offer. So in conclusion, if we want to increase our sales by increasing the perceived value of our offer, we need to lower the loss aversion ratio in our audiences and prospects. And one of the highest impact ways to do it is by changing the prospect's state of mind. Now, what do I mean by state of mind? As we all know, people buy on emotion and then justify the purchase with logic. And as we've already stated, the loss aversion ratio is a very emotional aspect of humanity. And with that in mind, we can now conclude that if we put our prospects in a state of mind that thinks more logically than emotionally, the loss aversion ratio in that person will be lower, thus increasing the perceived value of our offer to them. So now you might say, okay, cool, but how the hell do I change a prospect's or my audience's state of mind? It's actually simpler than you might think, and you might already be doing it. The easiest way to change someone's state of mind before purchasing your product is through great copywriting and scripts in your landing page videos, for example. The best tactics to use inside the copywriting to do this is mostly labeling and involvement. Now, if you are not familiar with copywriting or those terms, let me break it down to you. So these 2 copywriting examples sell the same imaginary marketing service, but with different prefacing. Now, take into account that this copy is positioned right before the purchasing page or the landing page, or just before the sign up or the CTA that eventually leads to your product checkout page. As you can see, the first example is really emotional, as most copy is, because it's trying to sell a benefit, not a feature. That's a great thing. But how do you think the person that reads this copy is going to feel when they hear the price tag or the weeks they have to invest in your service in order for it to be successful? This person's reaction to your pricing and the time needed in order to make your service actually be successful for them is going to be much more dramatic than that of a person who reads this paragraph that prefaces and labels the reader as someone who is more logical and strategic. Also, take into account that this bottom example doesn't differ at all from the one above in terms of what it's selling and how it's selling. It's still selling the benefits. It's not selling the features or using a complicated language. It's simply labeling the reader as someone who is a logical person and thus better prepares them for the incredible sight of your pricing. Now, after learning this, people make 2 big mistakes. Number one is using this type of copy throughout their funnel. If you do this, while it's great to keep in mind that this kind of strategy and tactic exists, you will eventually inadvertently distract yourself from using other great copywriting tactics and strategies that also help sell your service or product. The second mistake people often make is placement. This kind of copy should be placed just before the CTA or the sign-up page or the landing page. You do not want to place this kind of copy on the front of your funnel. Why? Because this copy heavily relies on labeling and involvement as its tactics to position your prospect's mind. Now, what happens with labeling? Labeling essentially niches down your audience. And by using this kind of copy in front of your funnel, you may inadvertently niche down your audience too much, more than you planned, thus decreasing the overall amount of people that enter your funnel. As I briefly said before, the best placement for this kind of copy is on the landing page just before the CTA or before the sign-up page, or on the checkout page itself if the checkout page is the landing page as well. If you want to go full nerd mode on this and go in depth and figure out what exact kind of labeling will target your ideal customer avatar, I have posted the 2 studies I extracted this information from in the description below. This is how you lower the loss aversion ratio in your audience, at least one of the ways. I'm sure there are other ways that are more niche or perhaps that work on a greater scale to do the same, but this is all I know about it at the moment. I share this kind of stuff because I believe there's a lot of people who are interested in scaling up their businesses or learning about psychology in general. If you enjoyed this video, you are likely to enjoy my other videos because they are all similar in nature. Have an amazing rest of your day.